Second item for the top, we condemn Russia's increased militarization of the Donbass region through the provision of tanks and other heavy equipment to separatists. The OSCE SMM monitors have reported the movement of large military convoys of Russia-supplied heavy weapons and tanks to the front lines of the conflict in recent days and greatly intensified shelling around the Donetsk airport and Debaltsevo, where separatists appear intent on making territorial gains well beyond the lines agreed in Minsk. There are no excuses for these ongoing and continuous blatant violations of the Minsk Protocol by Russia and its proxies. If Russia is truly committed to Minsk and peace in Ukraine, it will stop fueling the fire with new weapons and support for separatists and withdraw all Russian military personnel and equipment from Ukraine, and it will call on its proxies to stop ceasefire violations, release hostages, and close the international border. As the White House made clear on November 3rd, should Moscow continue to ignore the commitments that it made in Minsk and continue its destabilizing and dangerous actions, the costs to Russia will rise. We also call to your attention to press reports that the Russian government has thrown a blanket of state secrecy over what happened to its paratroopers from Pskov that were killed fighting in the Donbass this summer. We note that the families of those killed in action may never have the comfort of knowing from their own government what truly happened to their sons, now that their fate has been declared a state secret. Finally, I'd like to welcome you.
Well, can I go to change the subject a little
Sure.
bit? To back to Ukraine from your
Sure.
opening statement. You condemn Russia's increased militarization of Donbass. You said, is this something new that's happened over the weekend, or is this the stuff you were talking about last week, or is it all?
There's no new assessment from my end, from our end.
You mean since
Friday when I spoke about it, yes.
Okay, and so this is the stuff that you were talking about last week.
Correct.
Are you able to offer any substantial evidence that this stuff is actually Russian material and Russian?
On the border?
No, that's gone into Ukraine.
Well, as I noted on Friday, and I don't think
Right,
I'd change
said
what I
if
said today, if true, I don't have any new information to provide for all of you.
And then your comments about the Russian soldiers and the state secret. Are you saying here from the podium that these guys were killed in Ukraine and their families are being misled or lied to by the Russian authorities? And so is that?
Yes, the information is not being provided to the families.
So you are.
The absence of the provision of information is different from lying about something, isn't it?
Well, if they don't have information and they don't know where they are, some of them are, or don't know where they went, I think you can define it many different ways.
No, but you choose not to provide information 20 times a briefing, but nobody would accuse you of lying because you're not providing information.
Well, Arsen, I think there's a difference between me not providing, say, classified information or information about sensitive negotiations to you during a press briefing, and families who have lost a loved one not being provided with information about their lost son.
So you have no problem with answering Matt's question, whether you regard this as lying in the affirmative. Yes, you regard it as lying. The Russians are lying to their own people about the fate of these
information
soldiers.
is not being provided. You can define that however you would like to define it.
But, okay, but is it your intent by standing there and saying this to inform the families of these missing Russian soldiers
tending to raise our concern that
this is in Ukraine?
This is unacceptable, not to inform anyone, to raise a concern that this is unacceptable.
Okay.
Obviously, they would be informed by the Russian
Are
government.
you familiar at all with any time that the U.S. has done something similar about troops that have got, or where things have been masked in a shroud of secrecy in terms of the whereabouts or the deaths of American troops?
Are you referring to something specific, Matt?
I'm just wondering if if the U.S. this is something that the United States would never do, what you're accusing the Russians of doing.
Well, Matt, without referring to something specific, I don't know what you're referring to, but obviously this is a concern we felt was worthy of raising.
Okay. Do you know if you're making this same kind of statement in other venues, or is it just here? I mean, is the embassy doing anything? Are you doing anything with I don't know, online?
Typically, when we raise things, they're being raised through private channels as well. I can check if this specifically has been raised through private channels.
Do you know, though, if the Secretary, for example, raised this with Foreign Minister Lavrov and said, hey, this is not good?
I'm not aware of him raising this in his recent conversations. No, but this is from kind of earlier this summer. So.
Just where are you getting the reports from? I mean, are the families Are these Russian families in direct contact with you or with the embassy? I mean, where are you hearing that they're not being told?
We have a range of sources for information. I don't think I have anything more to read out from it.
But they
from
haven't
that.
come to the embassy directly or to you guys directly?
I just don't have any more details on it.
On
Go
Russia,
ahead.
Mikhail Gorbachev, the last president of the Soviet Union, on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, warned that maybe a new Cold War is underway. Do you have any comment on what he said? Are you concerned that there may be a new Cold War with Russia?
No, I'm not, and the Secretary has spoken to this as well. I can just do a couple more. Go
Staying
ahead.
on Russia?
Sure.
The Russian Central Bank issued its annual economic forecast today and predicted that sanctions from the West would remain in effect until 2017. Do you see that as a generally accurate prediction?
Well, it may be their assessment in order to do their economic reporting. Obviously, that will be determined by Russia's own actions.
Sure.
So beyond that, I don't have any other assessment.
But does it trouble you that a central organ of Russian policymaking is predicting such a dim outlook for the possibility that actions might work in the favor of removing sanctions?
Well, it troubles me that instead of taking actions to remove or to prompt a removal of the sanctions, there seems to be a doubling down on some of the problematic actions that Russia has been taking, leading to negative growth projections and record capital flight departure from Russia, having a huge impact, obviously, as was assessed in this report on the Russian economy.
And then the EU, well, Chancellor Merkel made some comments last week hinting that sanctions might be expanded against rebel leaders in the Ukraine. Can you provide us with any update about coordination that you're doing with them or how imminent that kind of expansion might be?
Well, I think, as I stated at the beginning, if Russia continues on the path to aggressive behavior as it relates to Ukraine, then there will be additional consequences. We continue to discuss that with the Europeans. That's ongoing, but I don't have an assessment at this point in terms of what, if anything, will result from that.
Would those consequences apply to Russian officials or Ukrainian separatists or both?
We'll see. We'll see. I think I have to wrap this up, Goyle. I'm sorry.